The Nintendo 3DS celebrates its 10th anniversary today. It was a true successor to the original Nintendo DS, which was the most successful handheld console of all time. So, what a better time to look back at the success and its shortcomings, what it did right and what it did wrong, than now. Back in 2004, everyone betted on Sony beating Nintendo with a PlayStation Portable. While the PlayStation Portable was a success, the original Nintendo DS outsold the PlayStation Portable almost 2-1. This was in part thanks to games that went beyond the usual, which helped it to reach out to people who weren't normally gamers. Games such as the touch generation games like Brain Age and Nintendogs helped to achieve this, and great first party titles like New Super Mario Bros., Mario Kart DS, Animal Crossing Wildwood, and of course Pokemon also helped to shift the unit. Not also to mention that the DS had some truly awesome third party support. With rumours of a full-on sequel to Nintendo DS console in the works, people still expected next generation PlayStation Portable to be named the Vita, beating Nintendo. However, in the end, the 3DS would outsell the Vita almost 7-1. The first look at the 3DS came at E3 2010. It had several advancements over its predecessor, such as a new wider screen, motion controls, a much faster processor, the Circle Pad, and of course, the 3D enabled screen. Also at E3 they announced some games that would be coming to the system, such as Kid Icarus Uprising, Kingdom Hearts 3D, as well as some other games which famously did not come out, such as DJ Hero, Saints Row, and Assassin's Creed. The console would launch in 2011 for a starting price of £220. The launch titles were a bit of a mixed bag. You had some good games like Steel Diver, Pilot Wings Resort, Nintendogs Plus Cats, while other games like Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell 3D, Super Monkey Ball 3D, and Asphalt 3D were just average. It did seem a little odd for having a brand new Nintendo console on the market without a Zelda or Mario game at launch, and this would initially hurt sales of the 3DS system. The software that was included with the 3DS was kind of neat, but almost exactly the same as the software that was included on the DSi. But the cameras and the microphone tricks you could pull off were always appreciated, and any other software was just kind of forgettable. The cameras did let you take 3D photos, which was pretty cool, but even by 2011 standards, the quality was comparable to a potato. While a lot of people these days dismiss the 3D feature as merely a gimmick, it is important to remember that in the late 2000s, 3D was seen as the next logical step after HD, especially after the success of Avatar in 2009. So, how does the 3D effect hold up today? I always have mixed feelings about it. I remember when I first got the 3DS at launch, and I went through the setup process and cranked out a slider on the side all the way up to max, and it felt amazing. It felt truly like the future was in my hands. But whenever I crack it up these days, I just think, man, that's neat, and then turn it back off. It feels like the game falls into one of three categories. Good 3D effects that I don't use, bad 3D effects that I don't use, or the software just does not support the 3D effect. In a pretty good camp, you have games like Mario and Sonic at the Rio 2016 Olympic Games, good sense of depth into the screen, Kid Icarus Uprising, overall pretty good effect, nice sense of depth, and foreground effects aren't awful. Again, Mario Kart 7, pretty good sense of depth and pretty good overall. Super Mario 3D Land is the poster boy for a 3D effect, however. Not only does it let you pick between two different styles of 3D effects, but it has the best balance between foreground and background depth, and some gameplay areas require you to use a 3D effect in order to solve a mini puzzle. In the bad games, you have games like Super Smash Bros. For Nintendo 3DS, the background just feels like it's lacking some depth and the foreground just sticks out a little bit too much to me. You have Captain Toad Treasure Tracker. Two images never seem to quite run proper to me, almost like they're glitching or something, and the same thing happens with Yokai Watch, although that could just be my dodgy eyesight. Then you have Steel Diver, the depths into the screen overall while good, just don't feel like they go far enough back into the screen, considering the game is meant to be set within the sea. Codename Sting. 3D effect is honestly not the worst, it's okay. It's just a bad game overall. Then there's those games that don't include 3D effects, such as Super Mario Maker for 3DS, Fire Emblem Warriors, Mario and Luigi's Inside Story, just to name a couple. I feel that the 3D effect works best when it's going into a screen and not coming out into a foreground at you. When they started to make a 3DS, 3D wasn't meant to be a gimmick, but in the end it turned into one, and almost all third-party software was lacking in the 3D department, either literally or just not as smooth as Nintendo's offering. You don't remember these either? In the first couple of months, the 3DS was struggling to find an audience. There are several different reasons for this. It was designed in a world where 3D was going to be the next big thing. However, by the time it finally came out, the world had started to get over 3D. As a result, its biggest unique selling point, a lot of people were not interested in, and the USP of dual screen and a touchscreen had already been explored with the original DS. Not only to mention that a lot of people were questioning whether they needed a portable gaming console with the rise of smartphones, and with it only having one analog stick at the time, lots of people thought that the PS Vita with dual analog sticks would have been a better investment. The lackluster launch titles didn't help either, and while third-party support seemed promising at first, it soon died out. And while the 3DS was backwards compatible with the DS line of software, a lot of people did not see it as a worthy upgrade over the old DS systems. So, how did Nintendo fight back? Well, they did two things. The first one was that they announced an all-new Mario Kart and an all-new 3D Mario game would be coming to the 3DS later that autumn. Now, more people were definitely more excited for the first 3D original handheld Mario game. Of course, we had Mario 64 ported to the original DS, but this time it would be different, as it was custom built for the 3DS from the ground up and promised to tie the 3D into gameplay in a way that could not be ignored. But for me, I was most excited for the new Mario Kart. I still remember seeing Coconut Mall, still the best Mario Kart track ever made, in my hands for the first time and being blown away that this track I had only seen on TV was now within my hands and in 3D. The second thing they did was to announce a price cut for the system. Some Game Boy Advance games were given out to the early adopters as a sort of way to say thank you for being an early adopter. Wish I knew that at the time, since I'd never claimed them, and I could have. This was the only time that Game Boy Advance games were made available on the 3DS, which is a shame really, as I wish I had introduced a virtual console for the Game Boy Advance on the 3DS, but they never did. While it's fair to say that Nintendo have always struggled with third-party support, in some cases it was particularly worse on the 3DS, but Nintendo really did do well to fill in the gaps and help push sales of the 3DS with some standout releases like New Super Mario Bros. 2, The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask 3D, Metroid Samus Returns, Animal Crossing New Leaf, Luigi's Dark Mansion, The Legend of Zelda Link Between Worlds, just to name a couple. And of course, a big boost for the 3DS was the release of Pokemon X and Y, the first Pokemon game to be in 3D, as well as introducing Mega Evolution, character customization, Fairy type, and of course the 6th generation of Pokemon with 72 new Pokemon. The game was set within the Alos region, which was based on France. It was also the first ever Nintendo game to have a simultaneous global release. It ended up being the second best-selling game on the 3DS system, with 16.5 million copies sold. Although for some reason, we never hear as many people talk about X and Y these days compared to other Pokemon games. Maybe it's because it was the first game in the series not to get an enhanced version, something like a Pokemon Z, and whilst the game does have its faults, I do truly believe we've not had a better Pokemon game since. A lot of people throughout the 3DS's life were asking for a full update to the system, similar to what the DS Lite did to the original DS, with maybe 2 analog sticks. However, we only got some minor updates at first, with the 3DS XL and the 2DS. A full-on update to the 3DS would come in the form of the new 3DS line, However, these were nowhere near as successful as the DS Lite was. But they were an improvement. The new 3DS came with much better face tracking and stabilising 3D, a feature that should have been in the original DS from day one. A slightly better camera, but again, still not the best quality. Extra red buttons that almost no game took real advantage of, and a mouse off an old IBM ThinkPad. It was a solid improvement, and there were a number of games that could be only played on the new 3DS system thanks to a slight spec bump, but none of these were system sellers, and most people would be fine with just the original 3DS. By the end of 2015, it was clear that the 3DS era was starting to come to an end, but it would be a long drawn out death. That year, Nintendo would announce they were working on a new system codenamed the NX, which would be released in 2017. This was of course Nintendo Switch, which would see Nintendo's handhelds and console divisions effectively merge into one hybrid system. Now, I love the Switch, and it's truly brought me back into gaming properly, and it helped save Nintendo, but I do miss some of the magic that came with the 3DS era. However, just because the Switch was coming out, didn't mean Nintendo gave up on the 3DS just yet. As from 2016 all the way through to 2018, past the launch of the Switch, Nintendo released some of the best games for the 3DS. Some of these include WarioWare Gold, Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, Yokai Watch Series, Fire Emblem Warriors, Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, Mario and Luigi's Bowser's Inside Story, and Sushi Striker. Then from 2019 onwards, it was clear that Nintendo was no longer working on any more releases for the 3DS, with the last ones being Kirby's Epic Yarn and Persona Q2 New Cinema Labyrinth. However, in the year 2021, while releases may have stopped, there are still quite a few servers online, and while Nintendo are slowly shutting down some servers for stuff like Super Mario Maker on the Wii U, and one day we'll undoubtedly see similar stories about the service for the 3DS, some for now remain up, so make sure to jump on for a match of Mario Kart 7 online while you still can. While it may not be Nintendo's worst selling console, or the best selling console, I honestly and truly believe overall it was Nintendo's best system. Similar to the home console it was being sold alongside with Wii U, the 3DS remains one of Nintendo's best and most underappreciated gems, merely just for the first party games they were offering at the time alone. And whilst the Switch is great and it'll be here to stay for a while hopefully, there will always be something about those old days that I will truly miss. You can still even play Super Smash Bros. For Nintendo 3DS online. Not that you'd want to though.